So you lost weight, got shredded, what next? And before you go getting all excited about jumping into a caloric surplus and building muscle and letting loose and having fun, I highly recommend that you really embrace a maintenance phase, really own the physique that you're at. And I'd say stick around maintenance for a good 4 to 8 weeks. My preference would definitely be 8 weeks of maintenance, just really getting comfortable with where you're at. Maintenance can be a scary thing for a lot of people. It's foreign territory. It's something they've never done. They've always been used to either cutting or completely letting loose. So I'm going to give some tips and recommendations on some different options that you can use to approach your maintenance phase. Now, if you took a smart approach with your cutting phase, it really should lay the groundwork for a successful maintenance phase. So if you had structure in place where you're eating a lot of the same meals consistently, like for myself, I have a shake every day. I have plain Greek yogurt and berries as my second meal. Third meal is often eggs. I have that on a consistent basis. Dinner's where I got my variety, but I still only had like 7 to 10 meals that I ate for dinner, and I just rotated through those on a weekly basis. So having that structure in place, as well as eating towards your own natural tendencies. So if you enjoy higher carbs or higher fat, sticking with those natural tendencies, as well as including your favorite treats. So if you worked in your favorite treats or even worked in your refeeds, that kind of stuff should be setting you up for success with this maintenance phase. So basically, how you eat, whether you're trying to burn fat, build muscle, or maintain your weight, is going to be relatively the same. It's just the quantities that are going to be different. So how much should you consume when you're trying to maintain your weight? Well, I've got a calculator on my website. I'll link to it here above, also down below in the description. You can just simply enter in your height, your weight, your age, and your activity level, and it will tell you your total daily energy expenditure, and that's how much you would consume to maintain your weight. Now let's say there's a 500 calorie difference between your fat loss intake and your maintenance intake. You got a few options here. One is to add another meal in there. So if you're used to having 3 meals a day and you want to throw in a 4th meal, that's fantastic. If you prefer to eat 3 meals a day and you want to just increase the portion sizes, that's freaking awesome as well. Maybe you want to keep the 3 meals and have 2 more snacks throughout the day, 2 good sized snacks throughout the day. You got a few different options there. Now, most of that 500 calorie increase is going to come in the form of carbohydrates. I like to keep the protein the same, so 1 gram per pound body weight. During a fat loss phase, I'm usually about 0.3 grams of fat per pound body weight. Muscle building phase or maintenance, I'll bump it up to maybe 0.4 or 0.5. So like for myself, I might be looking at 10 to 20 extra grams of fat. The rest is going to come in the form of carbohydrates. So probably looking around 80 grams of extra carbs in my diet while keeping protein the same and fat just a little bit higher. I highly recommend that you keep your intake consistent for at least 2 weeks. This will give you a good idea of whether or not you are truly at maintenance level calories. The first couple of days, you're gonna see a jump in weight. It's mainly gonna come from food volume, some fluid in your muscles, some water weight there. But after a few days, it should stabilize. So we're really looking at a good, stable weigh-in for at least 2 weeks to really determine whether you are at maintenance level calories or not. What I've noticed with both myself and my clients when shifting from a fat loss phase to a maintenance phase and you start introducing more food to your diet, your body tends to not feel satisfied. It triggers something within both your body and your mind that, oh my God, we're out of this famine. Let's keep eating. I mean, you've basically been starving it for maybe 12 weeks and it's like, wants to take advantage of this extra fuel and it doesn't want you to stop eating. So this is why it's really important to continue tracking while you're in maintenance mode. It just it helps you grasp, it's an education in what maintenance level calories look like, what they feel like. So it's really important to be mindful throughout the entire process, paying attention to how satisfied you feel after each meal, whether you're still hungry, whether you feel full. Just be mindful of the process and what maintenance level calories feels like. Sure, it's a more rigid approach, but it's going to give you the best insight into what maintenance level calories looks like and feels like to you. The next approach is more lifestyle driven. So instead of being rigid with your intake and consuming the same amount of calories day in and day out, here you're going to base your intake around life events. And right now it's summertime here. Our weekends are jam-packed with things to do, attending festivals and parties, and all of them seem to be based around food and alcohol. So I'm planning my intake to be a bit higher on those days. I'm still being mindful. I'm not stuffing myself silly. Basically giving myself about a 20% surplus cushion to work with here. So what that means is if I'm consuming 20% above my maintenance level intake 3 days out of the week, I'm gonna have to make up for that the rest of the week. So I can either have 3 days that are in a 20% deficit, maybe 4 days that are in like a 15% deficit, however you desire to work it out. The main thing is that we're looking at a weekly intake rather than basing things day by day. As long as your weekly average works out to your maintenance level calories, you're pretty golden. Kind of reminds me a lot of an approach I followed a few years ago, Tom Venuto's Holy Grail approach. I think it was 3 days in a 20% surplus, followed by 3 days in a 10% deficit. It worked really, really well during a muscle building phase there, and really enjoyed that approach. And this approach that I'm taking right now kind of feels very much like that. But don't feel like you have to be locked into any kind of rigid rules where there's so many days a week that you have to be in a surplus or so many days that you have to be in a deficit. You're just, again, you're rolling with life events. So if this week you only have one life event where you're in a surplus and you want to have a great big surplus, just know that you have to make up for that throughout the week. That's a pretty darn good way to live a little and maintain your weight. But at the same time, I find if you take it a little too far, like for myself with this 3 days in a surplus and the rest of the week I'm in a deficit, I still feel like I'm in diet mode, and it's definitely not my preference. I don't like that feeling. Dieting just sucks. So I try to do everything I can to avoid that, which is why I really have a strong preference towards just keeping the calories as consistent as possible most of the time, picking and choosing your times when you're gonna bump up your calories, and just being mindful, not being silly and stupid and going crazy overboard with them. And to me, that's really what owning maintenance is all about. Really getting comfortable with the amount of food that you need to consume to maintain your weight, to thrive, to perform your best, to feel your best. That's what maintenance is all about. And the important thing is with either approach, you're still keeping things in check. There is no free-for-all. You're not completely letting loose. You're not bringing back those bad habits that cause you to gain weight in the first place. This is you building the new foundation for what allows you to maintain your weight, to enjoy life, to perform your best. And now I'd love to hear from you. Have you been struggling to maintain your weight? Have you been successful maintaining your weight? If so, what approach has worked best for you? Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel and be sure to hit that alert button so you're notified each time I upload a video. Before you go, make sure you download your free guide, Jacked After 40. Have yourself an amazing day. Catch you in the next video.